part of the country is much easier because we have telephones with fairly cheap rates to keep in touch, and also jet airplanes. But back in the Gabriel Opsal's day, when he came over in 1905,
Right.
I would say that is almost like going off to the other side of the world.
That's just
It would
a
take
real
about
good
2 weeks,
observation.
at least 2 weeks by ship for him to come over in those days. And you didn't know whether you're going to make it or not.
Yeah, but you
No,
had
at
Christian
15,
friends.
that was a gutsy young man.
You had Christian friends,
right.
and your life revolved around the church.
Now, let's see, I guess raising 4 kids isn't easy. Would you rather have had them all 4 at once, or would you rather have them spread out like you did? Or
No,
it's
I
hard
think
to say.
I think it worked out well the way it has because, for one thing, you had a little breathing space, and then another thing, your father died, and we had that inheritance there, and we decided to use the money instead of letting it sit in the bank.
Well, how did you use it then?
We
She
Square
met
recognize-
mill?
grandfather.
We recognized that Margie had talent, and music is a universal language, and if she
Okay, yeah.
aspired
Yeah, I
to
know.
major in music, then we would back her up by buying the harp. And that first harp that we bought cost $3,000. And later on, we were able to sell it for $5,000 when we got the other one.
If you made money on it.
Yes, but we had gotten new strings into it and things like that. But in the
But you
meantime,
lost it when you bought the more expensive one.
things went up. You know, the value of things went up. You know, that harp was built, I believe, in 1918. Each harp has a serial number on it. You know, so you can go back and identify when it was made. So anyhow, Margie has fulfilled whatever investment was made in her, whether it be the, high cost of BU or the additional buying of a harp, and all the joy she has generated. You know, you can't imagine all the places that she has played in, whether it's in New York or New Jersey, and now more recently Massachusetts. The music brings joy. And isn't that better than having it sit in a bank? You know, just getting interest.
Now, in kind of winding up, since I'm running out of questions, without any bragging, what would you say some of your good points are, just as you see them?
Oh, God.
I mean, you can be modest. I mean, you're an excellent
All right, I'll
pianist.
say, back in senior high school day, you know, my classmate, Penrose Kent, his name was, sat up in the middle row and I sat in the back. And the English teacher, you know, was wanting him to know what taciturn meant. Taciturn? It was vocabulary building. And he turned around like this. Helen Opsal. And I was mortified. I could have dropped through the floor. I was so quiet. I always thought the other person was smarter than I,
Well, what does it mean?
better equipped. It meant to be very silent and quiet and withdrawn, taciturn. And in my heart, I didn't want to be that way. Around the church people, I felt free, you know, but all these other people in school, they were smarter than I. They were better than I. I had a inferior feeling. Well, anyhow, the class laughed and the teacher laughed with them. And,
The teacher did too?
yeah.
But they may
I
not have
wasn't
all
happy.
known what it meant.
And then what happened?
They probably didn't.
I got a job. Oh, she did. She taught us Old English, Chaucer and all that.
What was her name?
Thelma Weisenborn. Anyhow, what happened? I got the job in school, you know, secretary to the superintendent, where I had to meet that very same public, and I learned to speak out. When I went with my mother to California, I had 5 weeks vacation then, see, and I had to do the speaking. We went by train, and she would feel so, you know, I'd have to go inquire about the next train or the station. Don't leave me, you know, she didn't want to be forsaken. And, she said, you're so good at speaking out. You're going to find out the reason or whatever, you know, so I got those compliments.
What are some of the other...
I overcame the shyness. And it was the same way when I played the piano and organ. I only had 3 winters. And I had to go up there and play for people, and soloists would come in, and they'd hand you the music. And you know, nowadays, they come an hour early and they rehearse and they go over it. Everything is so perfect. I didn't have that advantage.
What are some of the other good things?
Good things?
I mean, you were very faithful for 17 years or 19 years playing the piano and the organ,
Oh, yeah.
and very diligent.
Well, I think it was built into me.
Economical.
And part of it was training. When my mother trained us to do the housework,
Part of
you know,
what?
she went over the baseboard like this. And if she saw dust, you got to do it over again.
Oh, the white gloves inspection.
That's right. And it was the same way with everything. We were taught to take care of things.
And you've always
It was
had
discipline.
a,
It was strictness.
you've always had an interest in reading.
Oh yeah. Well, one time she went to the junior high school principal and said I read too much. She wanted me to help with the housework. And I was mortified there again. You know, I was called in. And I thought, what have I done? And then the teacher or the principal said to me, you know, your mother says you read too much. Well, nowadays,
Read too much.
yeah, nowadays they would recognize it as intellect, a
That's the
craving
opposite.
for knowledge.
It's just the opposite now.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
The way they're trying to promote it now.
Can you imagine? I can't believe it. She read too much.
That's
So I mean, part of that was their ignorance, and then other ways they were generous.
And then you were in this fear that you had done something wrong. You didn't know what it was. Is that
Yeah, right, right.
What year did you go to California? That was in the
That was
summer?
1939. My mother,
1939.
you know, she hadn't seen her sister in 30 years. And she had loaned my father, now talk about 50-50, and she had loaned my father money that she had saved as a domestic. I think it was $300 or $500. And so when there was feeling, you know, she always brought up that she had never been repaid the $500. And finally he paid her. This was before it was after the financial crunch. And so on that money, you know, she bought my ticket. It was $139 to go by train back and forth. And we had
Would
our
that
meals
include
on
all
the
the
train.
meals too?
What?
Would that include all the meals on the train?
I'm not sure of that. I
Probably
think
not.
so. I think
Oh.
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where I first met the word rasher. You got a rasher of bacon. I'd never heard that word before. But I loved it, sleeping at night and hearing the whistles of the trains. You know, it was so romantic. And when we were rolling into New York again, you know, I told my mother I could go on for another 30 days. I'd had a wonderful trip.
Could
No.
you sleep on there? Could you sleep on the train?
Yeah, well, you dozed, you know.
Now, about 1956, in the summer, you worked at Deerfoot Lodge.
Oh, yeah.
What were your duties there? I believe I was about 10.
One of them was to wash the dish towels, and one time I caught my thumb in the wringer. And they were always praying for the staff, and they were praying for
Generator.
the generator. You know, if the generator went off the cliff, it was at a standstill. And some days I was too quiet that you know, these church and very special Christian people, they had taken me on. He was a camper, and Dennis was going to just follow me around. And anyhow, I substituted for the nurse. One time a boy came in, a bullet had hit him in the forehead and ricocheted.
A bullet?
Yeah.
BB gun,
Yeah.
maybe?
What?
At
I
camp,
guess so.
maybe
It
a
had
BB
hit a tray and it had hit him here. So I always seemed to be in the middle of an emergency.
And Dad used to come up every 2 weekends, every 2 weeks.
That's right. That's the summer.
On
He
the
never had a
weekend.
telephone call except once.
Did you hear that joke? Did you,
It wasn't a joke, you said. It was
no,
true.
it wasn't. Isn't a joke. It's true.
Anyhow, the telephone rang and it was the wrong number.
You know, I was home. I was home for 8 weeks, and I never had a telephone call except once. I answered the phone, and it was the wrong number.
That reminds me of
So I wasn't
Paul.
very popular.
His complaint as well.
But anyhow, it was a long ride. It was about 7 hours.
It was the wrong number.
Yes,
And you drove around up there in the Nash Metropolitan,
that's right.
and I don't know what car he had before the Plymouth.
I had a Plymouth.
No, before the Plymouth Plaza, you had another car. You got the Plaza in '56. So what'd you have in? Yeah, that would have been about then. That new car, the
Yeah,
green
I drove a Plymouth. 56 Plymouth.
with the big fins in the back.
Yes. It looked like an airplane.
Gabriel Opsel said he liked it except for the big fins. And then when you bought that, then a month later or 2 weeks later, Ingvald Hansen had to go out and buy a new Buick.
He
Keeping
had
up
that
with,
one for about 40 years, didn't he?
keeping up with the Hansens.
He kept the Buick for 40 years, you
No.
said?
Well, no,
No,
but
he
it's
didn't.
just recently they got a new one.
So let's see, 56 or so was Deerfoot Lodge, and then I guess you didn't work anymore since then.
Well, I
No,
worked at
I
Lincoln,
was-
you know,
Well, obviously
before.
the house. And
I was able
Yeah,
to support it.
When did you work at Lincoln? 1960?
It was after my mother died. It was right in the beginning of 1957. I thought it would take my mind off, you know, the change in the family.